cash call pickup that we facilitate with the sheriff's office. Nothing's
Nope,
changed about that.
we're actually adding a 4th crew.
Good.
So
Okay.
we're dividing the county into, so basically we're gonna have 1 crew per supervisorial district.
Okay, great.
And except for District 3, and they'll cover District 3 as they go through to get to the landfill.
Fantastic.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for a meeting of the Tulare County Water Commission. It is 3 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order, which is item 1. Item 2 on the agenda is public comment. At this time, members of the public may comment to the Water Commission regarding any item within our jurisdiction that is not appearing on today's agenda. Public comment can only be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Is there anyone here wishing to speak under the public comment period? All right, seeing no one, I will close public comment and we will continue on. Note on item 3, the January 13th, 2025 meeting minutes are posted at the following web address, and you can access that information there. Now we'll move on to the reason that everyone came today, our presentation from our illustrious Ben Giuliani from LAFCO. Thank you, Ben, for making this work. I know that this was something that I thought would be a valuable presentation, since it is such a hot topic right now at various LAFCO agenda items. So.
Thank you. I am not used to being on this side of things.
Do you have can you hit the microphone so we can hear him? I can hear him, but I just want to make sure the audio works.
There we go. So as Supervisor Vanderpool said, there has been some activity with LAFCO, with Water District specifically. So I see that you have the maps out in front of you, so just wanted to give a little review of what's been going on at LAFCO. Last year, this is a really big one, LAFCO approved the formation of a consolidated water district. This formation was brought to us by the people's, thank you.
Look at you, woman of all trades, IT, doing everything.
That's awesome. So, People's Consolidated Ditch Company and associated ditch companies, they brought this to us. So this was a pretty big, wasn't really a white area as per se, because it's within the Kauai Delta Water Conservation District. But this formation of this district will help the landowners and the ditch companies there, gives them more options for trying to secure water and making projects that will be beneficial for SGMA purposes, like water storage and recharging and so on. So the status of this one, this was a conditional approval for formation. It still has to go to election. The election for this will be May 6th. And being a water district, it's a landowner district, so you could think of it as $1, one vote, rather than one registered voter per one vote for most other types of districts. Are there any questions about consolidated water district to start? Okay.
On your map, right where the Highway 63 how is that?
Yes.
The white spot right there that users are being contiguous, is that
There actually is contiguity right here. This little black line right here, that's a TID canal that connects the two portions of the district.
Okay.
Any other questions for consolidated? So some other interesting ones that LAFCO has had, and these have occurred in the last couple months. Let's go to Atwell Island Water District. So this is interesting, a couple different ways. I mean, Atwell Island Water District, they've had some issues over the, quite a few years now. Atwell doesn't have very much private property holdings left within their district. It's mostly federal BLM land. So this is an opportunity in a couple different ways. First, you have a lot of property owners to the east who are in what's described as white areas, that they're within the Tri-County Sigma, Tri-County GSA for Sigma. But this also gives these property owners more opportunities to pursue water projects and, the ability to organize and try to get more water into their areas as being part of the water district. It also will benefit the water district itself in terms of governance. So you'll have a lot more motivated property owners that will be able to help run the district compared to what's been going on in the past with Atwell Island. So the status of that right now, this was approved in the January LAFCO meeting. There have been a few reconsideration requests filed for this annexation approval that will be heard at the April LAFCO meeting.
Ben, do you want to maybe clarify or just expound on why Tri-Counties was really pushing for this, or Atwell Island, however you want to describe it? I mean,
well, being part of a public entity, I mean, it opens more doors for these landowners to be able to try to organize, to build water projects, to try to potentially bring excess water when there is excess water into the area for farming, and gives them a better ability to organize and be at the table for Sigma purposes.
Yeah, and that's, I was very familiar with this effort. They reached out very early on, and their goal here is to bring in stormwater when there's heavy flows and to pipe it to this area and use the system to bring water in that they couldn't have access to previously. However, there have now been several reconsideration requests that are going to basically pull themselves out of this annexation, which really made no sense to me.
Well, I haven't heard about anybody wanting to get out of the annexation at this point. It's a matter of the decision itself.
The noticing and...
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'm not, well, we're going to have a public hearing for it in April.
Okay. We won't get too far into that one.
Are there any questions about Atwell?
Questions, comments on Atwell Island? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard about this annexation from some residents in Allensworth and Alpaugh, and they were just curious if there are any ramifications on the community and the residents there.
Yeah, we've had an outreach meeting with Allensworth community members a couple weeks ago, and there'll be more opportunity. I know the proponents behind the annexation will also be meeting with Allensworth community members tomorrow, actually, to hopefully, explain better, answer questions, what's going on, what their intentions are. I mean, these are farmers that are, it's a story being heard all over the county. These are farmers that are looking for ways to, try to keep water flowing so they can continue to produce. So yeah, hopefully we'll get their questions answered, and there's going to be more opportunity also at the public hearing for the reconsideration request too. And Atwell Island staff will be there also to further explain what their intentions are.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
So the next one is St. John's Water District. So, I mean, there's a lot of common theme here with, trying to work within the confines of Sigma. This one's a little bit different in that there was also a detachment associated with this change of organization. So you'll see this green area. This is all developed land now within the city of Visalia. And they actually legally can't receive water from the water district anymore because the water district water is specifically for agriculture. So their request was detach the developed areas in Visalia and in turn annex these pink areas up to the north. And there's two distinct parts to this. The area to the west and the northwest, this was being annexed specifically just for Sigma purposes, for Sigma planning. And the area over here on the east, this is the area that benefits from for actual water from the areas that no longer need it in the green. This also benefits with water districts, something to keep in mind, and that's why something I didn't explain with consolidated. If you look at, I'll show you consolidated again real quick. There's a reason why you'll see City of Farmersville and some of these rural subdivisions excluded from the water district. There's not a need for agricultural water in these areas, and when the water district in the future, I mean, they could be planning Prop 218 elections for water projects. It doesn't make sense for them to have these urbanized areas within the district because these water, while there could be some benefit to groundwater recharge, it benefits everybody. A lot of these projects are going to have more benefit to the farmers. So when you have these Prop 218 elections that could be happening in the future for specific water projects, it's to the water district's benefit to have farmland within their districts rather than urbanized areas of the cities or these unincorporated communities. Any questions about St. John's?
Questions? Okay.
Okay, and lastly, in St. John's and Ducor, these are both, I mean, this happened last week. LAFCO action happened on these two last week. Ducor is a similar situation with Atwell in that you have some adjacent property owners that are in white areas that are not currently represented by any districts. They wanted to annex into Ducor, so they had, I mean, essentially have a seat at the table in terms of pursuing water projects and water supplies and working within Sigma. Any questions about Ducor?
Questions?
I have a question. Was there any discussion of additional annexations in the future?
Yeah, that's always a possibility. In fact, with the Ducor one specifically, we got a letter from an adjacent property owner, the area that I'm pointing at right here. This block of land was in the original application, and we got a letter a week ahead of the meeting from this farm right here requesting to be added into the annexation. So we got it in time where we were able to get feedback from the water district because, you know, we didn't know if they were purposely excluded for the annexation for a reason or if there was any issues as to, you know, whether or not they would be, you know, be able to come into the district. The district didn't have any issues, so the commission that day were able to adjust the boundaries and add them in. And then we actually had another property owner who came to the public hearing and also requested to be annexed into the district. That was kind of late notice, but we conditioned the approval based off of feedback from Ducor, so we're awaiting feedback from Ducor on whether there's any issues. And we're not even sure, I mean, the property owner has to get back to us on what exact land he was referring to. I believe it's somewhere over here in between the existing district and Sausalito. So, I mean, this just happened, so we're still waiting on feedback from the property owner and from the water district on if there's any issues.
Yeah,
Add them too.
Yeah, once the word kind of got out and neighbors started talking to neighbors, and I can imagine that's why you started seeing people coming in. And
Yeah, and
they want to be in similar to the other situations in Kauai, all white area, hoping to come together to address Sigma issues.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's more requests like this for other districts or even another wave of requests for the existing districts.
Word's getting out, so I could imagine that we'll probably be seeing some more.
Any other questions, comments? Sure.
So here again, on those, in the top center of the map, you've got 3 little islands sitting out there by themselves. What's LAFCO's policy on having this hopscotching of it instead of having it contiguous?
For water districts and irrigation districts, there's no requirement to have contiguous land. If you look down here with Kern Tulare Water District, this area in yellow is all Kern Tulare Water District. There's some contiguity there too. Can't pronounce it, but yeah, it's not uncommon, and it's legal. So there's no issues with that. I mean, you'll see right next door in Terabella, you have similar situations, and you have kind of a checkerboard in Terabella where you have some lands that are either not farmed or don't need the irrigation services for Terabella.
But in general, LAFCO's general principles are for contiguity and like city limits and.
Yeah, for it more matters for urban services.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay. Is that all you got, Ben?
That's all I got.
All
Unless
right,
you
well,
want to
thank
hear
you.
more.
That was helpful. I think that a lot of people don't know a lot about LAFCO, number one, but number two, there's just been a lot of interesting water type discussions at LAFCO meetings, given the Sigma environment, and I just thought it would be beneficial to have you come and give a presentation. So, anyone else have questions, comments?
I just got one. Anything new with Hope?
Hope? That's a good question. I haven't heard anything from Hope in a bit, so yeah.
Me neither. That's what I figured I would ask.
No, not that I know of. Not yet, at least. We'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, thanks, Ben. Appreciate you coming in.
No problem.
Okay, next we're going to move on to item 5, the drought update. And yes, this is still pertinent even though we're supposed to get a lot of rain this week.
The dry conditions are definitely improving. Oops. So our well permits, as you will see, for 2025 have gone down. We saw a decline last year over the previous years. So we are at 72 for this calendar year. We didn't receive updated information from self-help on tanks and hauled water, but as happens every year, their funding through the state's budget process is always scrutinized and looking for, I think the state views it as we've had several wet years and this program has been going on for a really long time and how to get out of it. We dodged the bullet last year, last summer, and so we're hoping to do the same this year. And so in the bottled water program, you'll see that there's 257 drought-related households enrolled in Tulare County, and the remainder are due to contamination, and they're getting less than 1 enrollment per week. Any questions on drought?
Questions? Okay. Now we'll move on to legislative subcommittee reports.
So we have not met yet. We just got the list of bills, and so we're going through those to prepare. We prepare a table for the subcommittee to then start to go through and identify which ones we want to weigh in on. And so we will be meeting on April 2nd to do that. The next big days are June 6th and then June 15th for budget bills, and then of course into September for chaptering and signing. So we still have quite a bit of time to weigh in. We'll be working through those and have something for you in the April meeting.
Okay. Questions, comments? It's actually quite nice when the legislature is not in session. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year.
It was interesting that this year a limit was imposed and we ended up with more bills that I guess it was like, well, I have this many, so I need to introduce this many. It was interesting. I think the intent was to go the other way, but here we are.
Okay, on to staff reports. We've got Sigma implementation terms and commission requirements, which is Form 700s.
Yep. And so probation for Sigma updates, the main status update that I have is in the Tulare. As you know, they are probationary. As you saw, Ben showing some movement in water districts as folks try to realign GSAs. In the Tulare subbasin, the Eastern Tulare GSA has had a number of members leave, and so we are working with Assemblywoman Macedo's office to craft legislation similar to what the Kings River East GSA did early on, but to create a new standalone special act GSA down in the Tulare subbasin to cover the remaining areas of the Eastern Tulare GSA. And I believe it will ultimately take in the Ducor Water District, which you just saw, as well as the Hope Water District. And then some white areas. So you sort of saw that in Ben's maps, but that is the key update in the Tulare. I know many of you participate on GSAs, and if you have any information to share outside of that.
So the only update I'll share, I thought it was kind of interesting, maybe some of you followed what happened with the Kern subbasin. That has 22 different GSAs in there. And the state board actually said that they had a hearing set last week for their probationary designation. However, they had made enough progress prior to the hearing that they actually continued their probationary hearing so that progress could continue until, I believe, September or October. So making more progress in this area, which is, a good thing.
Yeah. That would have been nice if the Tulare had gotten a little extra time.
Right.
The other thing I will also share is the governor had adopted an executive order during, I believe it was in 2022. Yes, okay. So almost 3 years ago, that required counties to provide well permits to GSAs for input, and we had developed a process for that. The governor rescinded that executive order several months ago, and so we have been working with our GSAs to figure out a path forward on that. And so we have crafted an urgency ordinance.
You have a mouse in your pocket?
Yeah, I'm like, we as in somebody else crafted it and we kind of looked at it. So an urgency ordinance that mirrors some of those components of the executive order. We met with our GSA managers last week because their desire was to continue the practice, but we didn't have authority to do so without something in place. And so this urgency ordinance will cover those bases. We got some feedback from the GSAs last week. I believe we emailed it out to the GSAs, or it'll go out tomorrow-ish. It'll go out this afternoon to the GSAs, the draft will. And we incorporated their feedback, and so that will be coming forward. Basically, it allows GSAs to opt into the process. Otherwise, we'll process well permits as our ordinance states. And then they can sort of continue the same provisions of the executive order. Questions or comments on that?
Anyone got anything? Okay.
So we've got a number of commissioner terms coming up. Commissioner Blattler, Commissioner Washam, Commissioner Fino, and Commissioner Snyder are all terms expire April 30th. I believe we've sent out, have we sent out the link to the application? And so you don't have to wait until April 30th to get your application in. We'll take that now and get it in the queue so we can sort of have a seamless reappointment or an appointment by the board. Ms. Clark, I wish she would. Okay. We're willing her back. We're hoping that the private sector, she doesn't like it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. We'll update that, Ross, for you.
All right. Anything else, Denise, under that section?
No, and we are accepting the famous Form 700s. I don't know, Elva, do you have a count on who's still outstanding? Okay. So you should have received an email from, I believe we use e-disclosure, if I'm remembering correctly, to log in and fill out your Form 700. We do it electronically, so you can copy it from the year before. It's pretty easy. And we'll make sure we send a reminder out before the next meeting because they are due April 1st, I believe, 30th. Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So per, I forget the SB number, but there was a piece of legislation that was passed last year from Senator Hurtado's office, which requires GSAs to register their Form 700 with the FPPC. I also added the commission to that. Does the county receive that, or do I need to do the separate one as well?
We can double check. I think if you send us a copy of that one, that we can then file it. But we'll have to double check with the clerk of the board because she's the keeper of our filings.
Okay.
But we can figure that out.
Yeah, because I did add the commission on there as well as my.
You can usually do it multiple agencies, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks, Denise. Appreciate it. On to Section 8, Commissioners' comments. Does anyone have anything for the good, bad, or otherwise of the order? Mike, any great economic development stories? Anything you want to throw in there?
My mind right now is the fire department and the new implementation.
Okay. SRAs. Yeah, okay. Anything else? Everybody have good Valentine's Day? Yeah. Okay, never mind. All right. So we will close Section 8. We'll move on to Section 9. Does anyone have any future agenda topics they'd like covered? Okay, if you think of anything over the next few weeks, please feel free to email myself or Elva or Denise and let us know. Otherwise, we'll come up with another presentation the next go around. We'll see if Ben wants to come back for part 2. Okay, awesome. Next meeting is going to be April 14th, 2025, and I anticipate things will kind of start heating up a little bit with the legislature back in session and bills being out there. So we will see you all on April 14th, and I'll move on to Commissioner Steve Blattler's favorite item on every Water Commission agenda, and that's adjournment. Thank you all for attending today. Have a great evening. How did it go? Did you get a lot of questions?